Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Wednesday, March the 8th, 2023. Today I want to talk about the horoscope of Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader. I haven't looked at this chart for some time, and so I thought it might be a good idea to do a recap. But before I do that, I want to talk about today's stars on Wednesday, March the 8th. So what's the main thing going on? Well, the moon is moving into Libra. This is perhaps a welcome change. I think that when the moon was in Virgo, opposition the sun, it wasn't very pleasant. We were feeling agitated, critical, trying our hardest to keep our head above water, to make sense of a chaotic world. Now, with Moon in Libra, we can be more relaxed. When dealing with other people, we are going to be focusing on harmony. We're not going to want fights and arguments, and it's a time to build bridges. So if you've fallen out with someone recently, now might be the time to get back in touch. A few kind words, a few pleasantries can go a long way towards sorting the problem out. But the moon in Libra is not the only thing going on. Probably the main thing is Saturn moving into Pisces. Now, Saturn has just moved into Pisces. It's been in Aquarius for a couple of years. Very strong in Aquarius because Saturn rules Aquarius. I know some people say Uranus rules Aquarius, but I use the traditional rulerships, and Saturn rules Aquarius. So now that it moves into Pisces, we get a very different image. As far as what this image is, it's a long time since I've played with tarot cards. I'm not really a fan of tarot cards. I think they're problematic. I think there are better ways of making forecasts and predictions. But if you were to use the Aleister Crowley deck, the card Eight of Cups is associated with Saturn in Pisces, and he describes the Eight of Cups as being about laziness, indolence, and the card has dark skies, a swamp, and it's about just emotions going nowhere. You know how it is when we get over emotional, but we're not doing anything. We're ruminating, we're getting obsessed with our feelings, we're not getting angry, we're just sitting there, we're stewing in our feelings, and certainly from an outside perspective, we might seem lazy. So as Saturn goes into Pisces, all of us have to be careful. We could be in a situation where we are stuck in quicksand. Okay, we're not going to get suffocated by the quicksand, but we're just going to stay here. So in a very general sense, I would suggest that we don't get too caught up in our feelings. And I'm not really saying that on an individual level. I'm really saying that collectively. Society mustn't get too emotional. We need to be rational. We also have to remember that Pisces has a religious connotation, and at its most extreme is about martyrdom. So with Saturn in Pisces, some people might feel that it's a good time to martyr themselves for some higher cause, not out of any great enthusiasm, but because there's nothing else to do. What's the point? We might as well die for something. So that is, of course, not a good approach. So we mustn't be martyrs, not for anything, whether it's a religious cause or a political cause, whatever. But people will encourage us to be martyrs. They will say that it's something that's worth doing, that it's sweet and honourable to die for one's country. Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. But no, that's not a good idea. We don't want to die in the mud. And I'm thinking particularly right now of what's going on in the Ukraine and people dying in the mud. And which brings me on to what I want to talk about, which is Zelensky. So we've got a time of birth as far as I can see. He was, and we've got a date of birth. I've looked at several sources, and it seems that he was born on January the 25th, 1978, in Kryvyi Rog. I think that's in southern Ukraine, at 2 in the afternoon, exactly at 2 in the afternoon. So that's a little bit too exact for my liking. So he was probably born around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So how do we make sense of this chart? Well, he's an Aquarius. That gives him a certain amount of objectivity. He can be detached from the emotional hurly-burly of life, but it's stronger from that, the detachment, because one way I like to look at charts is to look at the elements: fire, earth, air, and water. The fire signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo, etc. So he has four planets in fire signs. He has Moon in a fire sign, Mars in a fire sign, Saturn in a fire sign, and he has Neptune in a fire sign. He has a single planet, Mercury in Capricorn, in an earth sign. He's got 4 planets in an air sign: Sun, Venus, Jupiter, Pluto. And he's got 1 planet in a water sign. That's Uranus in Scorpio. Now, when you look at these signs and planets in signs, you should put the emphasis on the traditional planets. Now, Uranus was a discovered planet, and that's his only planet in water. So I would have said he has very little water in his chart. And I suspect that's disturbing. If you don't have much water in your chart, there may be an issue with your sensitivity. You may not feel things that you should be feeling. There may be times when you're so focused on what you want to do and on what your plans are and how you engage with the challenges you'll face that you just can't read it. You can't see what's going on. And this problem of Zelensky is further emphasized by the fact that he's got a conjunction between the Sun and Venus in Aquarius. The Sun is in many ways a malefic planet, particularly when it's in Aquarius. Sun doesn't work well in Aquarius, and it's conjunct Venus. It's burning Venus out. Venus is a planet of relationships. It's the way we deal with other people. And I think that, again, he can't see it. I think something is burnt out. He can't see what's going on. And opposite Aquarius, he's got loads of planets in Leo. He's got the Moon in Leo. He's got Mars in Leo. He's got Saturn in Leo. He's got a high opinion of himself, which is a contrast to his Aquarius, to all his Aquarius stuff. And so he's so focused on himself that he can't see it. And matters are made worse by the fact that he's got Neptune setting on the 7th house cusp. That suggests some kind of deception. So I'm wondering how well he is handling the internal politics of Ukraine. Does he see the shifting balances of power as they progress? Does he see what's going on in the international community? What people are really saying? Can he pick up those subtle signals? And if you're president of a country that's at war, are you misunderstanding the battlefield? I think you do need very often a few water signs to be an effective general. most famous general of the water sign that I can think of, oh well, there's Rommel, he was a Scorpio. Julius Caesar was a Cancerian. Alexander the Great was a Cancerian. So you need a bit of water to be a general. You've got to kind of sense what your enemy is doing, and I think this is a problem. And perhaps this is what's going on with Bakhmut, particularly as he's so fixed. Now, in astrology, you've got the cardinal, fixed, and immutable signs. And if you look at his horoscope, he has got Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Uranus in fixed signs. He's not someone who changes his mind much. He decides on a course of action, and he just goes through it. And maybe this is what's going on in Bakhmut. He's just deciding to hold on to everything he can get, and not having the flexibility to do anything about it. Now, you might say that he's not in charge militarily. Maybe it's for generals, but I think he's the kind of person who is not particularly passive. I think he is in charge as much as he can be, with all those fire and air signs in his chart. So I think that inflexibility is causing problems. We should also realize that when a country chooses a leader, the leader in many respects becomes the country. I mean, that's a kind of a sort of a medieval idea, I know, the divine right of kings, that the king is the personification of the country, and if things are right with the king, everything's fine with the country. So when we look at Zelensky's horoscope, in many respects, we're looking at the horoscope of Ukraine. And as soon as Ukraine gets rid of Zelensky, then it will have a different horoscope. So Ukraine is incredibly inflexible. It doesn't back down. And in many respects, this has served it well, in terms of holding out against the Russians. But as many people have criticized Ukraine, they've held on to their territory, too long, I think. They don't have the flexibility to withdraw, rework their defenses and so forth. They are very, very inflexible. And I do think that with this chart, we're dealing with someone who doesn't bend. They break. And I think that is a problem with Zelensky. Too many fixed signs. And we're going to start to see this, I think, when Pluto goes into Aquarius. This is very soon. Pluto is going to go into Aquarius. And as soon as it does that, it's going to be opposition his Mars in Taurus. And it's going to be starting to make a conjunction to his Sun and his Venus. And Mars will move into Leo, I think, in about 6-8 weeks. I don't know. I haven't looked at my tables, but this Pluto could cause a lot of damage to Zelensky and to Ukraine. It's going to be dramatic, I think. So, if I had any advice for Zelensky, well, as you perhaps have gathered from what I've been saying, I'm not a fan. I think that things are going wrong. I think his horoscope indicates that things are going wrong. I just don't feel that he has the flexibility or the sensitivity to pull it off. So if I was to advise him, I would suggest that he, has a comfortable exile. Apparently he's got loads of money. Shouldn't be a problem. That would be my advice. But he's not going to suddenly change his plans. He's not the kind of person to listen to advice. He does things his way, for better or for worse. Anyway, that's my quick view on Zelensky's horoscope, and I will see you tomorrow.